All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Blackest Heart and The Forgetting Moon, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I am going to be reviewing the most requested book on the channel yet, and that is The Crystal Shard by R.A. Salvatore. Now, this book itself isn't the most requested, but the Dark Elf Drizzt books have been the most requested. So we'll start with the only three that I own that I purchased back in 1988 when the original Icewind Dale trilogy came out. I purchased these when I was young. Forgotten Realms books. The Crystal Shard was the second ever Forgotten Realms book published. The first was called Dark Walker over Moonshy. I don't remember the author, but then Crystal Shard was the next one. And I bought it right out of the bookstore the moment I saw it, because I knew that it was published by TSR. Right there, you can see TSR. I knew it was published by TSR, and it was, and TSR did all the Dragonlance books that I was in love with. So I wanted this, and I loved the cover. Let's talk about the covers first. This, just like the Dragonlance books, the Crystal Shard has a great Larry Elmore cover. Back in the day, Dragonlance was the end-all, be-all of literature in my world. And Larry Elmore was the best artist in my world. And so, you bet I got this book. I read it, I liked it. Never read it again. I don't know why, because the Dragonlance books, I think, captured my attention first, and that's why I just kept returning to them. I did read this back in 1988 when it came out. I read it once, never read it again. I remember nothing about it. And then book 2 came out, Streams of Silver, which has a great Clyde Caldwell cover. And then book 3 came out, The Halfling's Gem, with the Jeff Easley cover. And I read them. I just read this trilogy once. And I read it in the late 1980s. It's the only Drizzt D'Orden books that I've ever read, and I don't remember jack shit about them. So, launching into this book anew was an adventure for me. One of the initial problems I had, and then let's talk about the covers a little bit more, is what I didn't realize is I've had these books sitting in my collection since 1988. I don't know the math on that, but it's 2022 now. It's been a while, and I have not cracked these open. I'm telling you, folks, I was disappointed because it's all three of these books. For some reason, in the 30 some odd years that I've had these, I did not realize that the spines of my books were cracked. You know that that's a no-no in my library. And I let this slip by for 30 some odd years that I had 3 books in my library that had cracked spines. Now, you can't see them to look at them. You only notice them when you open the book up. And I went to open this up. I'm like, I'm going to reread this book for my channel. It's the most requested thing on my channel. I went to reread it, and I was like, oh, Lord, the spines are cracked. How did that happen? I have no idea. I've never cracked a spine of my own volition in my life. And I've got thousands of books in my library, not any of them that would have cracked spines that I'm aware of. So I was disappointed right off the get-go. I was like, well, this can't be. I can't read this book if it has a cracked spine. And then I noticed the spine on that one was cracked, and that one. Now I'm thinking what happened was, when I was in college, once in a while, I would make the mistake of loaning books out. And they would often come back all buggered up. And I think that's what happened here. And when the guy gave them back to me, I didn't do a quality assurance check on them. Otherwise, I would have taken his deposit right back. Had I known that. But anyway, so what I did Because these are going to have to go in the trash. These are going to have to go in the trash, people. They've got cracked spines. They are no longer useful to me. And I hate to say that because I love the Larry Elmore, Clyde Caldwell, and Jeff Easley covers. However, there's a solution. And the solution is good. Because all of the Drizzt D'Orden Dark Elf books have been republished by Dungeons & Dragons in these great sets. Every single book in the 34-book series has a painting by Todd Lockwood, who's equally as good as Clyde Caldwell, Larry Elmore, and the other guys. And each one of these, so I'm like, okay, now I can go ahead and buy the entire 34-volume Dark Elf series with matching covers and matching spines that will all look great on my shelf. That is, if I like my reread of the Crystal Shard. We still haven't got to the book yet. So, these are going to be donated to the prison library. If you know, I work at the Utah State Prison. Books that I no longer use, I donate to the prison library. These are going to the prison library. And I'm going to start over and I'm sad to see them go. Because those are classic covers. However, if I do decide to buy the rest of the 34 books, they're not going to match. So I might as well get the matching set. And Todd Lockwood is a magnificent artist in his own right. So did I like my reread of the Crystal Shard? Let's take a look at the Elmore cover and the Todd Lockwood cover. They've got the same characters on them. And, at least I think we do. I don't know. They're just both dope paintings. I give both paintings and both cover designs an A+. This one's much more 80s retro. This one's more modern. But to me, they're both spot on. Super dope. Let's talk about the Crystal Shard. Oh, Lord, how much time have I wasted on that? Let's see. Oh, Lord, we're 7 minutes into the video and I haven't talked about the book yet. We'll probably edit about 6 minutes of that previous garbage out. Icewind Dale Trilogy. 10 Towns. The Frozen Tundra of the North. We get to meet our main characters. Kessel, right off the bat, Kessel, the weak-willed mage. Regis, the halfling. Sort of like our, Kender from the Dragonlance books. We've got Drizzt, who is the star of the show, the Dark Elf, the Drow, the white hair, the 50-year history of living underground. He hates the sun like a vampire. He can't be in the sun for too long. Then we've got Brunor Battlehammer, the dwarf. We've got Caddy Bree, the young good-looking girl who Brunor sort of, mentors and has a crush on. I can't figure that one out yet. Wulfgar the Barbarian, our big fighter. And then Gwennifer the Panther, the Black Panther. That Drizzt, the Dark Elf, carries in his pocket as a little sort of, and it can magically come to life as a Black Panther. We've got all the trappings right up from the get-go of a great Dungeons & Dragons-esque fantasy quest adventure with magical weapons, magical items, dark lords, things that, orcs and all sorts of the creepy crawlies that are in the Dungeons & Dragons universe, set in the frozen tundra of the North, Icewind Dale. I was really loving rereading this, not remembering I didn't remember a single word of it. Unlike the Dragonlance books, which I read like 20 times each, I didn't remember jack squat was going to happen or what was but I was delighted because I'm like, man, if I could go back in time, I would reread these as much as I read the Dragonlance. I don't know why I didn't. I have no clue. It's inexplicable. I just didn't. And I wish I would have, because I think that, truth be told, as well received and as popular as the Dragonlance books became, I think over time, the Dark Elf Drizzt books might have leapfrogged them in popularity. I don't know. I don't know the sales numbers on any of this, but I do know that I have sat nearby R.A. Salvatore at book signings, and I have watched, at the Bard's Tower, at the convention circuit that I do, the Comic-Cons. R.A. Salvatore has been at the Bard's Tower with me several times, and the line of people that line up to have their books signed by this guy, it overtakes the entire convention hall. Other booths around us have to shut down just because there's so many people there to get their books signed by this guy. And these books have meant so much to so many people over the course of time because of the Dark Elf Drizzt and his badass swords that he carries and his badass panther, saber-toothed panther, and all the other badass characters that follow him around. And I've done some research on all of the Drizzt books, all 34 in a series, and it seems like the same cast of characters sort of wander in and out all of this books, and so I'm excited. I'm going to probably buy the rest. I've got the trilogy, probably going to buy the rest and review each one individually on the channel. I love the weapons, Aegis Fang, the Warhammer, the Crystal Shard itself, and then there's dragons, icing death. It's just full of so much great adventure that I am kind of regretting not reading them over and over and over and over as a kid, like I did Dragonlance. And I'm not sure, like I said, it's inexplicable. I can't say why. So, it's just such great 80s fantasy, and R.A. Salvatore's first novel he ever wrote when he was a very, very young guy. And it doesn't come across as a first novel. It comes across very accomplished. It's got some great writing. And if you want to study how to do really fast-paced, engaging character work plus action, and put it in a setting and a world that's built, well, I think the world might have been built for him. These Forgotten Realms might have been built for him. So he didn't have to do a lot of the world building himself. But maybe he didn't even name a lot of these characters himself, or the places that these characters were adventuring into. I don't know. But whoever did the naming system in these books, just like Dragonlance, they did it spot on. All the names of the towns and the creatures and the characters fit in the world that's been created here, which is great because there's a lot of fantasy books where none of it fits. It just feels like it's made up bullshit, nonsense, garbage. But this is actually really good, and it's a great late 1980s fantasy adventure, similar to Dragonlance. You've all been wondering what I thought of them. I regret not reading the entire 34 book series much earlier in life, or collecting them as they came out. I'm sad that I'm going to have to say goodbye to my original ones that I bought back in the 80s, but the spines are cracked. That just won't do. In fact, I feel the cracked spines just over my shoulder are just sending me negative waves right now. I mean, I can just feel it. So we're going to go with these, and we're going to start buying the entire series. I give this a 9.5 out of 10. A 9.75. It was very, very fun to reread this.